And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast where we talk about everything real estate. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we are wrapping up our 5-part series on Investment Properties 101. And today we're going to focus on using property management companies as a key factor to consider once you finally have purchased your first investment property. But before we get to that, I want to apologize to everyone out there for my calling myself out, if you will, that last week in our coffee talk, had a great opportunity to talk about something very relative last Wednesday, which last Wednesday was September 11th or 9/11. And I totally missed the ball on it.
We both did, Joe, not just you, man.
Well, I got to ask, 9/11, we lived, we were a part of that. Our kids, not so much, right? So they never saw. Do you remember, Joe, where you were when that happened?
I do. I was just getting to the office down in Dallas. I was working for Syntex Home Equity in the mortgage business. Okay. And I was walking across to the cafeteria area to get breakfast for myself and my manager, and they had it on the TV.
Yeah.
And that is the first time that I saw it, realized it, and it just, I cannot forget watching that and just everything that I heard. And the survivors out there, the people, the first responders, we had an opportunity last week to say, thank you to all of them. Yeah. And so thank you for bringing that up today, because we do need to call ourselves out, because that was a big thing that happened in our country, and not ever forgetting it, because that is the one thing that we have to remember is everybody that, was there for the survivors, the people that ran into the buildings. I don't know if I have the courage to have done that in that situation. I probably would have, but I could not put myself in knowing what they went through.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I do want to say thank you as well to all the first responders out there. I mean, Grant, we love working with our vets and that, but first responders, we cannot forget, especially last week on 9/11. We appreciate everything that you do. I do remember where I was. I was a different company that I was working for in a different industry. And I remember, all of us there was commotion in the conference room where the TV was, and walked by and, was trying to figure out what everybody was watching, and they keyed me in on it. And that's about the time that, I want to say probably about 10, 15 minutes and watching the news on the TV. And that's when the second plane hit. Yep. And I thought that they were replaying the first plane hitting, right? But then you saw the hole and the smoke and everything coming out of the other building, right? And it just, that was unbelievable. Then the plane that went down that was supposedly targeted to hit the Pentagon at the time.
Yep.
Wow, just
I want to get out to see the memorial that they did for that. I hear that awesome. I've seen the towers, and that memorial is great. I was out there right after a hurricane hit and helping out when I was with Chase, and the memorial was awesome. But I want to get out to the other one and see it, because I hear it's just fantastic.
Wow, good stuff. Well, again, thank you everyone, first responders today. I used to work with a school, actually, Joe, that's for paramedics and EMTs. Would you believe, I didn't know this until I started working there and helping out. EMTs, they typically, and anyone listening that knows, they typically have about a 5-year career as an EMT. They get burned, especially if they're on an ambulance. They get burned out really quick.
Yeah, my buddy did that before he became a firefighter. Most of them use that as a stepping stone in certain areas for becoming a firefighter if they can't get in right away. So, that's awesome.
Well, thank you everyone again. But
yes,
I am super excited about the guests that we have on for today. And I did say not just guests, but guests. That's right, because today, once again, we get to have 2 guests on at the same time, just as we sort of tried to do last week. I think this week will turn out a bit better with technical issues. But our first guest, Taylor, she has over 2 decades of experience providing comprehensive property management services. She started her career with a well-known local company, and after 10 years, opened her own business, Pros PM, back in 2018. And Hillary as well has over 20 years experience in business operations, working in higher education and nonprofit administration. She started her career in property management back in 2017 and joined Pros PM in 2022. Please welcome to the show, everyone, Hillary and Taylor.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Hi, y'all. How are you?
Good. Welcome, ladies. Well, we really appreciate it. And I've gotten the pleasure to know you guys for about a year now, a little bit over a year. So we really appreciate you guys coming on and helping our listeners today with the last part of our series. We've done 5 episodes of investment property stuff. But before we get into that, we would love for you guys to tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of Pros PM. We're a property management company. Our main office is here in Denton on the square, but we manage stuff all over Texas. We say we lease Texas as one of our hashtags. So we're, I think, what is it, 13, 14 counties? It may be more than that now that we cover.
Wow.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm Hillary. I've worked here since 2022. Had a first career in higher education at UNT, and then went to work at Cumberland Youth and Family Services as the chief operations officer. So I oversaw a 17-acre campus, which comes with a lot of maintenance. So kind of, got my feet wet there and got my real estate license in 2022, and
Been
here
rocking
I am.
and rolling ever since.
Now, I know, Hillary, you and I have worked together with some real estate deals. Taylor, are you also a licensed real estate agent?
I am, yes, sir.
Okay. So the nice thing about this is anybody that's listening, if you're using a property management company, they can also help you as a realtor too. So you guys have a dual purpose there, which is nice for the business. So, well, we appreciate you guys coming on. Anybody watching today, please ask questions. Participate in this podcast with us. We have 2 professionals here on how to run a management company and what the benefits are. So this is the best time for you to ask the questions and get in front of someone. So, but starting out, Taylor, when it comes to a management company, what do you want or need in that property management company? Let's start with that for some of the listeners.
Honestly, you need someone who has not just experience in the industry, but someone who's going to treat your property like it's their own. So you want to make sure that that person's able to have transparent communication, to be able to give proper financial reports, and that they have the backing to be able to send out, the proper screening, all of the different things that would be a full comprehensive overall picture look at your property. So you're having to do the least amount of work as possible. So we're really there to streamline everything for the owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the people that are buying the investment properties, when they go out and they, is there a way to research management companies versus just Googling? Is there things out there that you would say this is where you would go to see some things about those management company?
I mean, Google's our number one source,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Everyone, I think.
Yeah. I think, if you go to people's Google reviews, you're going to see where maybe their weaknesses are, or maybe there are areas of opportunity. And so, or things that they do really well, And so I think definitely go to Google to look at those reviews, and then ask around, call, ask questions, do some, just calling and asking. A lot of times we say we had an owner the other day call and say, I've called 5 different places and y'all are the first ones that answered the phone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
I think that's huge. And
Wow.
and so when you're leasing a property, you have an investment property, and your residents are not able to get to a live person. That's huge.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so I think that's probably one of the biggest things, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, that just circles back to that communication piece. a lot of people in this industry just feel like then it's not a necessary step to get back to people. And so, yeah, I think that's.
So I'm gonna throw this one to you because when I'm just now starting out trying to buy some investment properties. So when I'm doing that, when is the right time for me to start looking for a management company? Is there a number of homes that if I have one home, it's probably easy enough for me to manage myself. But what is that number that you're seeing? Is there a number, or is it just based on the personality of the owners?
That's a total personal preference for the owner. We have some owners who have one property. We have owners who have hundreds of doors. And so that's totally however much you want to be involved in that aspect. At one door, you don't just want this, but you don't need this. You can run that pretty easily unless you get into some hairy situations or something of that nature. But a lot of owners that aren't like you're a little bit more savvy in the industry, I would look probably closer to 3 doors. Sorry.
Okay.
So what?
Can I add something, Joe?
Please do. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think the biggest thing when you go to buy an investment property, it is great to have an agent that has some experience with property management.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing our clients run into is that they buy these properties and they're thinking, oh, this is a great deal. I'm getting whatever. And then they start looking at, okay, well, I'm going to charge this much rent, and then I'm going to have my insurance on top of that. And then my mortgage is this. And it adds up, and you're like, well, I'm not even going to be able to make any money on this. And so I think really talking to an agent that knows kind of how that rent collection is, what you're actually going to be able to rent it for, because a lot of times Zillow is not your best friend, and they're going to give you good advice on what you can rent that property for. So I think getting some CMAs and things like that before you purchase is huge.
Absolutely. That's, we were talking about it last week with our guest that as a realtor, knowing investment properties and being able to help, someone just getting into starting to build their portfolio, the importance of using a realtor that knows and is experienced, like what you're saying, especially with property management. Because not only is it the mortgage, the pity, the full pity to it, but then there's also the cost in using you ladies and so on. So what is going to be the net of it, not the gross, right?
Yeah.
And that, but if I could ask, let's say, because I know Joe and I will be in the future are looking at building a portfolio. So, I know Joe's handy, I'm handy with things and stuff, but so help our viewers know and understand what would really be the benefit of using a property management like yourselves.
Honestly, the total benefit, if you really truly use us in our full capacity, would be that you just sit back and you collect your payment every month.
Fair enough.
We're dealing with all of the resident collections, all of the resident communication, all of the lease process, all of the maintenance coordination, all of the unit turn coordination. Any little minute detail we're handling for you. And so that would be if we're doing the full capacity, the full service management, then that would be the true benefit.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, I know you said sit back and collect paychecks, but when it comes to the maintenance that needs to be done, are you going back to the sellers and being like, hey, we need a check for this because of the service being done? Or is that where you're keeping some of that money and where it's being paid for out of the rents, where you're not having to go back to me if I'm one of your owners and asking me for a check? Kind of tell our viewers how that works a little bit. I would like to know too.
So our owners set a maintenance spend limit in their contract, and depending on whatever dollar amount they're comfortable with, a lot of like a single family homeowner, quite a few of them do a $300 limit. And that gives us, if we have someone who's licensed, that gives them a trip charge and maybe a little bit of time to take care of a repair, like an AC tech for some instance. Okay. And then we deduct that from the monthly rent. And then at the end of the month, that amount goes out. So.
Okay. So you guys do manage the money part of it instead of, or the servicing, the money part for those servicers to go out there. Okay.
Yeah. So we send out a full report package with the owner draw the beginning of the month for all activity in the month prior. So it's a full accounting of true what happened in that month.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think, we have our own maintenance team on staff. We've got 9 maintenance people on not a staff of 9. And a lot of times we can send somebody out there either faster or less expensive than if you had to call somebody, get an outside vendor to go in. So, we also have great relationships with these vendors. If we do need to send somebody out, and sometimes you're getting better pricing, we know the quality of service you're going to get versus just calling, whoever off the street. So
we've done the legwork. We've put in the time with some bad vendors to get to the good ones.
Yeah.
So if that water leak that I'm having is going all over my garage, you probably have an ability to get somebody out there pretty quick, versus me trying to call a plumber and having to pay $400 an hour for an emergency situation.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. We've got our staff on call. We have a 24-hour maintenance line that can dispatch somebody immediately rather than them trying to wake you up in the middle of the night and figure out what to do.
Something that you need to look for when you're shopping around management companies. If it's a one-person shop, you're on vacation, who's going to answer the phone? Who's going to take care of those emergency situations? So investors are looking at that.
I'm to kind of switch gears a little bit here. I'm kind of curious, and by the way, those that are listening, if you have comments, please ask them, because this is a great time to really ask Hillary and Taylor about this. I'm curious as far as in our industry, for Joe and I know we have noticed over the past, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, kind of some market trends in that with housing. Kind of being a little bit flat with pricing or down a little bit here and there. Does that affect your position as property managers?
I mean, they go hand in hand as far as residential sales and leasing. They truly kind of follow the same patterns. We used to say that a great investment property, you would get a 1% return every month on your rent amount. We're not getting anywhere close to that at this point. So quite a few of them are well below, and we're doing lots of price drops, lots of additional marketing campaigns just to try to get things leased. Leasing really follows the seasonality of like a school year. Basically, our prime leasing season starts in May, goes through the end of July, early August, drops off, then picks back up December, January, and then drops off again.
Do you notice also, like us, when we see homes on, for sale on the market for, 30, 60 days, are you seeing a longer trend with that as well?
Oh yeah.
We are. Something that we try to do is to start pre-leasing. We require a 60-day notice for our residents. So we're giving them, some advance notice for their renewal and what that will be. And then, so we're trying to keep residents in their home. But then we're also, if they do want to move, then we're also pre-leasing those. So we're trying to set up showings, get people in and get those leased before they're vacant. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes residents, it's just
difficult.
It's not.
Okay, so you're dealing with renters there. They're not getting anything out of it. They might not be as nice to say, yeah, I want to show it so I can get money out of it. So I bet you that's a lot of managing when it comes to end of leases.
That's a lot of people management, not necessarily transactional management.
Yeah. So we have really good relationships with the residents. I would say for the most part, some you're just not going to, but that really does help.
Okay. And I know we always talk in the industry, location. When you guys have somebody that's moving out, that's 60 days, what percentage of the ones that you guys manage do you guys have that, go past that 60 days to finally find somebody? I'm thinking it's probably a little bit lower of a percentage in certain areas and then higher in other areas. But just on average, and it doesn't have to be exact, but just for viewers to know, using a management company, you guys are going to be proactively trying to find someone versus if you're doing it yourself, you're probably just going to put either a sign in the yard, put something on social media. It's going to be a little bit more difficult in the percentage of keeping a renter in there without vacancy. So, do you guys have do you keep any statistics on that, or do you look at it
We have metrics that we measure off of. It's difficult for us to tell you an exact number because of the wide area that we serve. So
13 counties.
yeah. So, and obviously, some areas, like if you're looking at, the 380 corridor, for example, those always sit much longer, especially the larger homes in that area. And so we just need to budget that we're going to have a vacancy loss of at least 100 days, probably at this point, maybe more. And so, but the homes that are like Keller Hazlet area, Watauga, some of those areas, you're less than 20 days. And so, it varies. It varies.
Well, and I think that goes back to, sorry, Joe, I know I keep taking over, but I know that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Hillary, is working with a real estate agent that either knows investment purchases like we've had on the show, or ones like yourselves that also know truly how the rental market works and the management of it. I think that really brings back the professional is going to help you know the right location, and also hey, this one might not be rented right away. So I like that kind of part of it.
Yeah.
We, to interrupt here, we actually have a question that popped in from a listener. Want to
Exciting.
bring on? Yeah.
Now you're going to have to tell us if they work for you or not, because
Do we have to?
So this was covered a little bit earlier as far as what Pros PM, as a management company, what they offer, what sets them apart, especially from other management companies. Ladies, if you want, go ahead and kind of tee this up for you, and one of you go ahead and tell us what is the advantage of Pros PM and using you.
I think I know that listener.
Yeah.
Thank you to my husband for
Okay, he really teed you up.
I like it.
I think for us, it's always been that people come first and that relationships are at the core of what we're dealing with. It's a very personal transaction, and that could be from the owner's standpoint or the residents. A lot of our owners lived in the properties beforehand, and so we have to really take that into consideration on a daily basis. And so for us to make sure that we're listening to what's being said to us and really soaking that in before we react is a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an advantage of having a property manager too. A lot of these properties that people, it might be their first home. It might be, they brought their babies home to that house. And so they've got some very personal connections. And so we can kind of take you out of that and make some decisions and do some things to help you,
Be successful.
be successful. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think you have to do that, right? You have to help somebody set apart the emotional attachment to a home and treat it more of a business. And having you guys, that makes it a little easier, because I'm not worried about my kid's bedroom. What paint color did they put in that bedroom? Why did they do that? Because you guys have the authority to approve and not approve that. So I think that's a great way to utilize a management company, especially if we talk about house hacking on one of our episodes, where you're moving in to a duplex, or you're moving into your own primary and then renting it out afterwards. I think that's where using a management company would be a great opportunity to just separate and make it a business and not worry about, oh my gosh, my mom's colored.
Yes, we've had to have a lot of those conversations about, that really doesn't need to stay.
Stories in that regard, for sure. Even from the resident perspective, a lot of times they're moving into a house. It's their first house that they've lived in. They've lived in an apartment where everything might have come from, they had a ton of amenities. And so they're used to someone coming to change their filter every month. Well, the filter is their responsibility, and just as it would be the homeowners. And so we just need to make sure that we're very upfront in our communication process.
Yeah.
Speaking of those items, fixing and so on, I'm curious, with some areas that you're saying, may take 90 or 100 days to get one rented in. Are you seeing where they need to be more updated, perhaps, in some of the maybe renovations or something that kind of a higher caliber?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more, a lot of DFW is really saturated, right? So we have a ton of competition out there. A lot of times they can go 5 doors down and get something that's got granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and those kinds of things. So the residents of today versus the residents of early 2000s. They're expecting, they're expecting there to not be any scuffs on the walls. They're expecting to be able to walk in and have no issues, just as you would normally think. But prior to, oh gosh, 5-6 years ago, cities weren't doing rental permits and rental registrations, and there wasn't any. I guess that may have been almost 10 years now. I'm dating myself, but there wasn't any policing of standards, and there is now, and it's what's expected.
We actually have another question that popped in.
Okay.
I am curious of this. I think this is a great question. I would love to hear both of you give answers on this. So Clint asked, as far as what is the craziest tenant you've ever had? I would love to hear this story. You don't have to name names. Please don't.
No, I'm not going to. No.
But I'm pretty sure they know Clint too, though.
Clint is our VP of Finance Operations.
I love it.
Clint, yes. So Clint is the guy behind the reports, and he's been with me since almost day one. So craziest interaction I've had would be I was on property. I was trying to tell someone that something they were doing was a breach of lease, and I knocked on the door and they were completely naked. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Lots of
That
it was
that would be
Took the show from PG to PG-13 again.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Lots of clowns in the apartment also. Yes.
Yeah.
oh
Wow.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of after the fact, but one of our coordinators recently walked into a vacant unit that the residents had just vacated from, and literally roaches
Rained
everywhere.
down.
Wow.
And so yeah, we see lots of fun stuff. We had one resident that was letting their dog just
No.
go everywhere in the apartment, and so that was fun to.
And we try to
To
mitigate
clean up.
that as much as we
So.
can. We do inspections, but sometimes it just happens over.
Well, you can't inspect them every month. I mean, I try to get my 18-year-old kid to pick up his bedroom, once a month. I can only imagine what
Good luck on
you
that.
guys have to deal with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just crazy.
Yeah, there's a million of those stories, but I mean, we see them, throughout the course of someone's life. Even we've seen a lot of bodies, unfortunately, too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Now tell our viewers, because we didn't say what county or where is y'all's office at?
our office is located in Denton. We're on
Okay.
just a block off the square or across the street from the campus theater.
Oh, okay, okay.
Cool.
So if anybody's looking in Denton County, for sure, you guys, I know that county very well. I know that. You said 13 other counties. Is it mainly just the surrounding counties around Denton, or tell our viewers kind of that way they know what areas you guys have out there.
When we started this, we used to say if it was within an hour of Denton, we could for sure do it. No big deal. So then you're looking at Denton, Collin, Tarrant, Cook, Wise, some of those, right? And so we started to expand. And then as we learned, we can continue to do this. We have these connections. We can still have boots on the ground, and we can continue. So we go all the way down to San Antonio. We have Houston.
Wow.
We have Bryan College Station. And then
Wow.
we're just filling in the gaps
We're
of that
amazing.
triangle. So
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm hearing kind of a theme there. You have college towns with Denton, with UNT, and then College Station. So
P-dub.
we talked a lot about that in one of our episodes about kids going off to school, buying a property. I think using a management company in that situation, if you're buying it, that would be ideal, because I'm not going to be down there watching my kid, and I want somebody to take care of all this stuff. I don't have to.
Yeah, and I think it's actually helpful too in those situations where you're the parent, you're buying it for your, maybe your kid and 3 other friends are going to move in. You don't want to have those hard conversations about rent, but we can,
Yeah.
or how they're maintaining the house or things like that. So I think that is huge.
Wow.
So
Yeah, because we were talking about that before, Joe, and there in Denton. My daughter goes to T-dub right there in town, right?
Yeah, 9 years.
And to be able to, I mean, the college dorm, I mean, that's expensive, but, to put that money into a property instead, right? Maybe a duplex or a quad or whatever, have the rest of it rent out because obviously there's other students. It's a college town. Matter of fact, if we can ask that, I mean, so it sounds like for maybe more like a college town, it's probably easier to find renters. Would that be a true statement?
To some degree, yes.
To some
Yes.
degree?
I think it's sometimes more difficult to find qualified renters.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Especially being in school is typically, 9-10 months of the year.
Mhm.
And you want the lease for a whole year, right?
yes,
Mhm.
ideally they would be for a full year. Sometimes we've done, a shorter term lease just to get us into that prime leasing season we talked about earlier, or an extended version, like a 16, 18 month also.
Okay.
That's something we've done as well. But, a lot of students don't have any credit. They don't have a job. And so then we have to get into co-signer situations, and that's not always successful. And so,
Now, do you guys deal with any short-term like VRBO type rentals and things like that too?
Great question.
Okay.
there's
No,
a lot
I mean-
more moving pieces to those. Yes.
Yeah, and I would only imagine how many more moving pieces there are, but it's good for our viewers to know that you guys do those also, because I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought you guys just do long term. So, what is some of the differences that you guys deal with the short term rentals than you do with the long term rentals? Just so that way people know.
We have to really think about dynamic pricing because the pricing does change daily instead of over the term of a long-term lease. You have to think about your hot funds taxes, your hotel occupancy taxes that have to be paid in. There's also state taxes as well. Your unit turn cost you're doing instead of once a year, you have a maid service every 2 to 3 days. And so you need to make sure that when you're setting those nightly rates, you're also setting deposit rates or cleaning fee rates or something to help cover those costs. Because otherwise you will lose
Lose
money.
money instead of make money.
Yes. Also, you're not guaranteed money. So we have some of those short terms that sit for a while until, like some downtown Denton, until something like arts and jazz comes up or graduation or something of that nature. You're going to have a larger vacancy there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I think just knowing the location too, what are some hot events, seasons, things like that, where you can, bring in a little bit more money and, knowing that you're not going to make money during certain seasons. So
Factor that in.
yeah.
Well, I know we're at our time, Joe, but ladies, is there anything else that you want to just share about Pros PM, about things that you guys do that's different? I know Jay already set you up for that one, so but that way they know what they're getting when they call you.
I mean, honestly, you're getting the two of us almost every time. A lot of our owners have our cell phones. They're calling us. They're able to connect with us at any given moment. And that's always something that you can't find in other companies. So
Yeah. I think
Obviously, you answer the phone.
that is a number one priority.
we do answer the phone. And I think we are very much a family focused business. And so our core values, we really believe in our employees. We value them. We treat these properties as we would our own. And our residents are very important to us. We do a lot of give back to our residents and to the community. And so that's really something that's important to us, part of our personal core values. And that's permeated throughout our organization. So
We have lots of annual give back events like our holiday. Our Giving Tree campaign will come up in December where our residents nominate neighbors for some sort of gift of some sort. And that's always a huge one where we come together with our vendors and our owners and our residents alike. And it's a whole community effort. It's really cool.
yeah, we're
Okay.
doing North Texas Giving Day. It's on Thursday, and we've been highlighting local organizations that are really important to us,
To our team members.
and that have been a part of our community
journey.
in our journey. So that's something that's really big to us too. So
Awesome.
Well, Taylor, Hillary, thank you so much for coming on our show this week. Really appreciate all the insights you were able to give to our listeners out there. If any of you have additional comments or questions, especially for Taylor or Hillary, you can definitely reach out to them. I'm going to pop down there at the bottom there, their email address and also their Instagram, I believe that is, right, on there, that you can get in touch with them and ask them more questions and see what it would be like to have them manage your rental properties for you. Next week, be sure to tune in as Joe and I are going to start a new series, being that today, Wednesday, the 18th of September, we are going to hear later today in regards to the feds and what they're going to do with interest rates. So next week, we're going to kick off a 3-part series on rates and how that affects you, whether you're purchasing, whether you're looking at refinancing, what have you. So we're going to start a series on that and how those rates can help you and position you in a better financial position for yourself. So be sure and tune in next week at our usual time, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central Time. I want to also thank everyone that listened in today, watched, and commented. Appreciate all the comments. Really do. If you missed any of our past episodes or you caught part of this episode, feel free to go to our YouTube channel at The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. And while you're there, be sure and hit the subscribe button because we are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers. Before we close things out, any last words or nuggets of advice for our listeners, Joe?
Just say thank you very much to both ladies that came on today. Really appreciate it, and everybody listening.
Thank y'all for
guys.
having us. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
It was fun.
Fantastic. Well, I'm Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy with the beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week.
Mr. Mojo.